In this video, we're going to be ranking the best weapons in professional wrestling, so get ready because this one is not for the squeamish.
Ultimo Smash!
We have got ourselves a ranking video, ladies and gents, and today I'm going to be going through what are the best weapons in professional wrestling. But before I begin, if I could just ask you to smash that subscribe button and hit that like button, because I kind of appreciate it, you know? Right, first up we've got the barbed wire baseball bat. I mean, when I think of this weapon, you know, a lot of matches come to mind. I mean, first one's probably, you know, the Randy Orton versus Cactus Jack kind of hardcore match. So this is you know one of the gnarliest weapons in the game, and I'm not sure where to put this one. I mean, wouldn't quite say it's a legendary, probably, you know, very important mid. I reckon this one probably goes in very important for me. I mean, one of the gnarliest kind of weapons in the game, and whenever someone kind of, you know, pulls one out, you always know that there's going to be some blood spilled. So yeah, this one probably goes about here. Next up, we've got the baseball bat. Where does this one go? Where does this one go? A lot of people you know, probably when they think of baseball bat, they probably think of, you know, Sting's 1999 run in WCW, and that's probably the case for me too. You know, some people probably, you know, think of, you know, Jericho, kind of Jericho's Floyd maybe, but for me, it's always, you know, it's always Sting's kind of iconic baseball bat that comes to mind. In terms of where I'd rank this, I'd probably say it definitely goes behind that kind of barbed wire baseball bat for me. I think it just doesn't have the same kind of impact and presence in the ring when someone kind of pulls one of these out, you know, as a barbed wire baseball bat. I'd probably say, you know, does it go in mid? Does it go in very important? Not sure. I think for now, kind of very, you know, sticking it under very important is probably right, just because of, you know, how iconic Sting kind of made that weapon, I'd say. So yeah, probably about here for now. Seems about right for me. Okay, what's next? We've got the Timekeeper's hammer. Not sure where I stick this one. For me, I mean, I can't think of too many kind of iconic matches where the kind of Timekeeper's hammer was kind of used. I mean, the most recent example that comes to mind is, you know, being used by Pac in AEW, but I mean, there's only been a few kind of examples that kind of come to mind. So yeah, this one kind of goes probably in the mid. I'd say probably in the mid for now for me. Okay, next up we've got the Knuckle Dusters. Where does this one go? I'd probably say this one goes probably before, you know, importance wise, probably before the kind of ring bell, I'd say. Still not a huge fan of the Knuckle Dusters. I think William Regal probably, you know, used them best and made the most of them, but otherwise can't think of too many examples. I'd probably sit it around here somewhere. Right, next up, what have we got? We've got the Taser. Where does this one go? Can't think of too many memorable examples of the Taser being used in the world of kind of pro wrestling. The one that kind of comes to mind is probably, you know, Scott Hall using it a few times in kind of the late 90s in WCW, kind of tasering the crap out of Goldberg. But other than that, I can't think of too many other examples where the Taser was used. So probably I'd have to say, you know, this one might sit in the terrible section for me. Yeah, probably down here. Not too much of a fan of the Taser, but yeah, it's probably the first one that goes down here for me. Right, next up we've got the Chain. This is another really interesting one actually. I mean, probably goes somewhere quite high in the list. When I think of Chain, I think of 1980s NWA, you know, Junkyard Dog versus Michael Hayes, you know, or even The Undertaker versus Kurt Angle in 2003 in No Way Out. So, you know, this one I'd have to say probably goes somewhere quite high. Is it as iconic as the baseball bat? I'd probably say no. So probably goes, you know, probably goes after the baseball bat for me. I mean, if you're a fan of kind of 1980s wrestler, then you probably disagree. But for me, I think it'd have to go around here for me. Next up, we have the steel chair. Ladies and gentlemen, it doesn't get more iconic than this. I mean, when you think of professional wrestling and you think of weapons in professional wrestling, you probably think of the chair. I mean, this one, this one has to go in legendary, doesn't it? I mean, this is kind of the weapon that's kind of synonymous with, pro wrestling from the start. When I think of the chair, so many things just come back to my memory. Like, you got The Rock kind of smashing, Mankind in the I Quit match. The Undertaker smashing Maven right in the face. You've got, memories of The Rock kind of smashing, Ken Shamrock as he kind of is kneeling down in the middle of the, the ring. So many iconic moments, man. So many iconic moments. It's got to be up there as, probably the most legendary weapon of all time, I reckon. Next up, we've got the crutches. I would say, not really a fan. Probably better than the taser, though. I'd say probably better than the taser, but yeah, not too much of a fan for me, I reckon. Where should we stick this? I'd say probably between brass knucks and Timekeeper's kind of hammer, let's say. Right, next up we've got the diamond ring. I mean, there's not much that's kind of, not many examples where the diamond ring's been used in professional wrestling. I mean, the only one that comes to mind is probably MJF. So, I do like the way MJF has kind of incorporated the kind of diamond ring into his gimmick. So, I'd probably stick this, around mid. Probably here, I'd say. Right, next we've got Fire. When we see Fire in a WWF match or an AEW match or a professional wrestling match, it's absolute carnage. I'm a big fan of it. Some people are not, but yeah, for me, I'm a big fan of it. So I'll probably stick it, in the very important kind of category. I kind of think it's kind of got to be used sparingly, not too often, but when it is used, it's kind of very effective. And as long as it can kind of help tell the story of a match, I'm all for it. So probably around, the very important section, I'd say. Right, next up, we've got the Fireball. I am going to make a kind of controversial statement here and say I'm not too much of a fan of these. For me, it kind of feel weird in professional wrestling. Like, what are we saying here? What are we thinking? Are we thinking that kind of wrestlers are magicians? Are we thinking they have magic powers? I mean, kind of have a bit of an issue with them. So for me, I'd say the terrible section, this one should kind of sit. Right, next we've got the Fork. I mean, this was kind of made most famous by Abdullah the Butcher kind of in the 80s, and you kind of see, John Moxley kind of using it, and it's been used a few times in AEW, but I don't know, for me, I'm not too much of a fan. I'd probably stick it in between Taser and Fireball, probably down here, I'd say. Right, next up we have Green Mist. I don't know about you guys, but I kind of go crazy for Green Mist. I mean, when I think about it, I think about, Tajiri, I think about the Great Muta. So it kind of is, it's wrapped up in all these kind of iconic wrestling moments. So I'm a big fan of Green Mist. I'd probably stick it in very important, just because it's kind of its cultural significance. So I'll probably go somewhere around here, I'd reckon. Right, I'm going to contradict everything I probably said previously, but next I've got the guitar. I mean, I don't really know too many wrestlers that use the guitar. I think for me, the only one I can think of is Jeff Jarrett, but I'm a massive fan of, the guitar. Whenever kind of Jeff Jarrett kind of smashes it over someone's head, there's kind of shards of wood going everywhere. The sound is crazy, looks kind of impressive. I'm a big fan of it. So for me, I'd probably stick it probably around here, just because of kind of the classic moments that we've got with the guitar. I reckon it probably belongs around, here in the very important section. Right, next up we've got kendo sticks. I mean, when I think of kendo sticks, my kind of head goes all the way back to kind of late 90s Attitude Era, Steve Blackman coming out, causing havoc. They're used a lot today, but for me it's kind of, Steve Blackman who kind of used them best. I would probably say kind of go around the midsection. I'd probably stick it, probably in the mid, but before the kind of the brass knucks, I'd say. So somewhere around here seems good for me. Right, next up we've got ladders. So I'm gonna be controversial in this one and say they should sit around. I think they should sit around here in mid. And let me explain. So ladder match, iconic, super iconic, loads of kind of memorable, ladder spots. However, as a weapon, not too much of a fan of the ladder. I mean, we do get a few kind of, big moments here and there, but it feels, a bit clumsy when you kind of see wrestlers, barreling it into each other. It feels a bit forced, feels a bit kind of set up. So for me, I'd say around the mid for me. I mean, I love ladder matches. Ladder matches are legendary, don't get me wrong, but as far as being a weapon, I reckon, it sits around the midsection, around here for me. Right, next up we've got the white powder. Where should this one go? For me, this is a bit similar to the green mist, isn't it? I mean, but for me, a lesser version, I'd say. The kind of only kind of examples that come to mind is probably Mr. Fuji, early kind of 90s, throwing it over kind of his the opponents of Yokozuna. But other than that, I can't think of too many examples. So I'd probably say it goes around, in the terrible section. Not too much of a fan of it. Probably, just behind the fork. And I think probably while I'm at it, you know what, I'm gonna be controversial. I'm gonna say, Balls of Fire doesn't exist to me. Right, completely doesn't exist to me because I'm just not of a fan. So relegating the Balls of Fire to doesn't exist to me category while I'm at it. Right, full transparency on this next one. I'm a massive AEW fan. I'm a massive Bryan Danielson fan. I'm a massive Jon Moxley fan. I was a massive fan of the kind of blood and guts match that just happened. And the next one is the kind of Screwdriver, which has kind of been featured quite a lot in AEW recently. However, I'm not too much of a fan of it, just because I think it looks kind of gruesome, and I think it kind of looks gnarly, and I think it looks painful. But I mean, we always know that kind of, the wrestlers are gonna, they're not gonna end up kind of stabbing each other. They're not gonna end up kind of putting a screwdriver through each other. It feels a bit forced to me, and it feels a bit fake. They're never gonna take it and really do real injury with it. So, for me, I'd say probably somewhere around the terrible section, because I'm not too much. It feels very similar to the fork, actually, doesn't it? I'd probably say behind the fork, just because the fork's kind of had a lot more iconic moments, kind of thanks to Abdullah the Butcher in the kind of 80s. So for me, the Screwdriver kind of sits here for me. Not too much of a fan of it, but yeah, that's just me. Right, what have we got next? We've got the Sledgehammer. Oh boy. I mean, when you think of Sledgehammer, you only think of one person, don't you? You think of the Game, you think of Triple H. I mean, how many memorable moments have we had thanks to kind of Triple H and his Sledgehammer? I think this one's got to go pretty high for me. I'll probably say here, probably, a notch below, being, is it a legendary weapon? Probably a notch below for me. I mean, it doesn't quite have the same impact just because of how, a wrestler has to kind of throw around the kind of sledgehammer. It kind of has to be, a bit subdued in the way they kind of, hit someone over the head with it. So for me, a very important weapon, but probably a notch below being a legendary weapon. But man, what an iconic, what kind of iconic weapon, and so many great wrestling memories, kind of thanks to Triple H and that sledgehammer. All right, what we've got next? Steel steps. Where do steel steps sit for me? I mean, there has actually been quite a lot of memorable moments with steel steps, hasn't there? I mean, I'd probably sit them, as very, very important weapons in the world of wrestling. For me, I'd probably say somewhere around here, just for the fact that we've had so many kind of iconic moments with steel steps. You've kind of got Brock Lesnar being tombstoned on some steel steps by Undertaker. You have Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels first Irish whipping each other into kind of the still steps before anyone else was doing it in the 90s. So yeah, probably a very important kind of weapon in the world of professional wrestling. Right, next up we've got stop sign. This one goes in the doesn't exist to me. Garbage weapon goes in the garbage. Right, next up we've got the strap. This one's a tough one, man. This one's a real tough one. I'm not too much of a fan of the strap, to be honest. But it probably has to rank, somewhere in a decent place, just because of the kind of cultural significance that the strap has had in professional wrestling. With all those kind of mid 80s NWA kind of strap matches, all those 80s strap matches probably means that this kind of has to go, somewhere in the middle here. Actually, I'm personally not a fan of it, but I think it'd be not the right thing to kind of deny its place in wrestling. So for me, probably somewhere around this midsection, I'd say. Right, next up we've got the tables. I mean, who doesn't love a good table spot in a wrestling match? I don't know anyone that doesn't like a good table spot. I mean, when it comes to professional wrestling, it is definitely the chair that's kind of the most iconic weapon. But for me, I'd probably say it's right up there with the chair, and definitely deserves a place as a legendary status in the world of kind of professional wrestling weapons. So definitely belongs in this prestigious place. When I think of tables, and when everyone thinks of tables, I think of late 90s, the Dudley Boys power bombing Edge and Christian through the tables. So many iconic kind of moments that happened in the world of professional wrestling around kind of table spots. So for me, the table spots rightfully deserves its place, alongside the chairs. All right, next up we've got the thumbtacks. Man, I'm gonna admit right off the bat, I am a mark for thumbtacks. Whenever someone pulls them out, whenever you kind of see them being kind of, poured out onto the mat, I go crazy whenever I see that. So I'm a massive fan. So this one ranks kind of really high for me. Not quite the legendary status as the kind of chair and the table, but for me this one's almost right up there. Thumbtacks, is definitely a very important kind of weapon in the world of professional wrestling. Just a notch below the legendary kind of status, but yeah, definitely a big massive fan of thumbtacks. Right, next up we've got the trash can. I'm a big fan of these as well. I do love a good trash can, especially in like a in a hardcore match. Can they be overused a bit? Yeah, but whenever you see a trash can pulled out, it's always good fun. So for me, it's kind of in a similar spot to kind of the guitar. Probably I'd say probably just behind the guitar. For me, the guitar's being smashed over someone's head is probably a bit more fun for me. So yeah, just behind the guitar, but still kind of a very important weapon in the world of professional wrestling. Right, last up we have the fluorescent light tube. Where does this one go? This is a really interesting one, isn't it? I mean, depending on who you speak to, a lot of people kind of would rank the kind of fluorescent light tubes, differently. For me, I kind of think of backyard indie promotions, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I think they should be used kind of sparingly. Is the way I kind of think about fluorescent light tubes. I can't think of too many iconic moments though with them. So, because of that, I'm gonna have to rank them. I'll probably rank them mid. I don't hate them. Not the biggest fan of them. Probably say around here. Is probably where for me they go. So let's have a look at what we've ended up with. How do we feel about this? Let me have a quick look. We've got chairs right up as a legendary weapon. Definitely the most important weapon in wrestling, followed by the table. What have we got next? We've got thumbtacks. Yep, love thumbtacks. I think that's kind of followed by the sledgehammer, just purely because of the iconic moments. I think there's been so many iconic moments. Next up, what have we got? We've got the barbed wire. How do we feel about barbed wire sitting there? Probably I think it probably goes there. The steel chairs up next, probably there just because of its iconic kind of status and all the iconic moments that we've had with kind of steel chairs. Baseball bat, I'd probably say baseball bat goes probably a bit lower. I'd probably put fire. Yeah, flaming table definitely. Yeah, probably should go above the baseball bat for me. We've got green mist, so many legendary moments. Chain, because of the kind of cultural significance and the kind of all the great chain matches of the 80s. Love the guitar smashing over someone's head by Jeff Jarrett next. Trash can as well, same thing. In the mids, we've got kind of the kendo stick, brass knucks, ladders, probably controversial, but hey. Crutches, alright, not bad. The strap, decent. Lots of iconic matches, but a bit of a mid weapon. Diamond ring, do love the way MJF uses it. Probably not enough other iconic moments though. The timekeeper's bell, hammer thingy, yeah, decent. I think the light tubes kind of is a bit of a tricky one for me to rank, but probably goes there. I think they're impressive when they kind of shatter all over the place, but I don't know. There's something about them that feels a bit kind of yeah, I don't know. Not there's something about them. I'm not too sure. What we've got in the terribles? We've got the taser. We've got Scott Hall's kind of taser. The kind of fork and the screwdriver next to each other. Yeah, just there's something about them that kind of feels a bit naff. What have we got next? We've got Mr. Fuji's kind of white powder. You know, not too much of a fan. And then what we've got in Doesn't Exist to Me, we've got the flamethrower. Yeah, wrestlers are not wizards, so not sure why they're throwing flames. And the stop sign is alright, but yeah, nah, not really. So yeah, I reckon I feel pretty good about this list. I feel pretty good. What do you guys think? How do you guys think I've done? Is there anything you changed? Is there any weapons missed? Let me know. Let me know in the comment section. I'd love to hear what you guys think of how I've got on. And yeah, let me know how you guys are ranking things. I'd love to know what you guys think. But in the meantime, that's all from me, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you on the other side. Peace.